Welcome to this live session hosted by Fab, your insurance broker and moving to France expert. Fab is like your immigration GP. We're here to answer all your questions: visas, residency, healthcare, driving, taxes, properties, and much more. We navigate the complexities of France to help you embrace the French lifestyle you've always imagined. Although we are experts in the immigration industry and have been working in this space since 2015, none of what we say should be considered legal or financial advice. It is also worth noting that the immigration industry is an ever-evolving field, so things that are relevant today might be outdated or inaccurate when you actually move to France. Fab's main source of revenue is insurance through our brand, Fab French Insurance. Our main goal is to ultimately help you move to France, as we only sell insurance to clients applying for a visa, a residency permit, or those with a French address. During this session, you can ask any questions you want. However, we will not answer long questions to keep the pace fast. We also won't be able to address questions related to personal or very specific issues, but rest assured, we can get in touch after this session to either advise or refer you to one of our trusted partners. And now it's time to get this event started. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you find our answers valuable. Our greatest reward would be to be a part of your journey to moving to France. And hopefully, it starts with this session today. We will pause briefly to allow all registrants to join. The session will begin shortly.
And we're live. Good evening, everyone. I'll put the light on, back on. Well, good evening or good morning, actually, depending on where you are on the planet. So, this evening, I'll go first with Nani, who's going to be with us in the background. And so she's also an American person that moved to France a while back. She's going to answer the questions in the Q&A sections directly. I'm gonna be your host this evening. Again, I'm considering French time, although it's still sunny out there. I'm Fabian, and today I have the pleasure of being with the Adrian team. And obviously, who better to start this presentation than Adrian herself? Adrian, welcome to the show.
Oh, Fabienne, thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here and I appreciate you asking us. For those of you out there that don't know who we are, it's the Adrian Leeds Group. I'm Adrian Leeds. We are French Property the American Way, and we are basically consultants who assist those moving or investing in France to find property to either rent or to purchase. And we help build a community and we do a variety of different things. And we're sort of a one-stop shopping for primarily North Americans. That's our primary market. That's who our clients are and who we can help. We are French Property the American Way, so we're Americans for Americans, in essence. But I also want to introduce Patty Sadoskas, who's also in the background here, and she's our operations manager. Patty will be looking at the questions in the Q&A and trying to answer some of those questions in the Q&A, because we know that we're going to have a lot of questions, and so we want to try to answer as many as we can, as efficiently as we can. But more importantly, I have with us today Jay Corliss. Jay, say hello, wave your hand.
Hello.
Jay is on our staff. He is our primary rental consultant. And one of our clients calls him the magician because Jay is so good at what he does that it's like he just pulls these properties out of his hat, come like a rabbit. And, Jay is not only a smart guy, but he's a nice guy. And one of the things and he's going to tell you all about it, but one of the reasons that Jay is so successful is because he understands that finding the property is the easy part. The hard part is securing the property and having a landlord or an agency accept a tenant's application, which is probably one of the toughest things there is to do out there. And we certainly hear this story all the time. I mean, you certainly see it in Facebook posts where people complain about how difficult it is to, not only find the apartment, but then get the landlord to agree to rent to them. So I'm going to let Jay explain why that is and how to make it easier and what the ins and outs are. And then we're going to try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. So, Jay, take it away.
Yeah, sure. I actually am an amateur magician, so I won't be doing any tricks tonight, but I will introduce myself real quickly. So essentially, I thank you very much, Adrian, for the kind words, and thank you, Fabien, for the invitation. I'm essentially ground control in Paris for what we do. And that just means that I take folks at every stage of your transition when you're moving either back home, thinking about it, taxiing at the airport, in flight. We are texting now in flight, and to your arrivals. So I take you from every stage of your transition and I slide you into our calendar. So that's kind of the overview of what I do. And then there's kind of 3 steps to it. The first is I match you. We have a good conversation. I get to know you because, as Adrian says, it's really about cultural fit. So I need to know who you are. I talk to you. I listen to you. We really care about what we do. And, I definitely care about you and your landing here. So the first part is I kind of want to match you to the neighborhood. You think you might know where you want to live, but we also really help you think about what is the correct match to the neighborhood. The second part of it is the search. It's breakneck, it's fast, it's exciting. We go through listings, we go on visits together, and we talk through leases. So I hold your hand throughout the entire search process. Ask me lots of questions about it. I'm happy to answer your questions and kind of demystify, as we're saying, a bit of that search process for you. And the last part of it, which is kind of the most important to us, is your landing, right? So we hold your hand through the inspection, what the inspection means, what you're looking for in the inspection. We hand over the keys, which is a very exciting moment for us, is whenever you actually get the keys and you open up your door to your new home. And then the penultimate item for us is community, is that Adrian has always placed an emphasis on community and helping you, introducing you into the community. So it's both our existing community and the community you're moving into. So I'll stop right there. Looking forward to your questions. And thanks again, Adrian. Love it.
Thanks, Jay.
Actually, I have a question for. Oh, wait, I think Fabienne has a question.
Just a quick housekeeping. So for those of you, you can ask the questions in the Q&A section, which is on the bottom of the screen, or should be, because there's been a redesign of Zoom. So otherwise, it's on the more section, and you can ask your questions there. We'll pick as much as we can up, and I'll throw them towards Adrian or Jay.
So I just want to ask you, Jay, off the bat, okay, because you talked about all the things that you do, but one of the things you didn't talk about is doing the état des lieux, for example, which you might explain that, as well as helping them go through the lease and sign the lease, the details of all of that. So maybe you can give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, of course, no problem. So the état des lieux is in the last part of the search, right? So that's really where we go through the apartment inspection. And that's where we're walking side by side. It can take up to 3 hours that they send in, and we look at every nook and cranny of the apartment. We inspect it. We take pictures of it. We want to make sure that you are receiving the apartment. You understand it's a snapshot of your reception of the apartment. So it's really to make sure that you're moving in, that snapshot reflects the state of the apartment when you move in, because when you move out, they're going to use that to compare your departure to your arrival. And that's where they're going to decide whether or not they can move in or use your security deposit. So that's the état des lieux. The other part is are the types of leases. We'll probably get some issues on questions on the leases. So in Paris, we essentially are working with two types of leases. There's a civil code lease, which is mainly secondary residence that we're looking at here in Paris because
But
lots of
that's true
expats come
anywhere,
over.
right? I mean, the leases are all over France. It's not just Paris.
Well, yes and no. It's the types of leases that are coming up all over are the same across France, but the most in demand are the secondary residents here in Paris. We do have some principal residence leases, but most of them are civil code leases. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Happy to answer some questions about the details of those, unless you want me to go into details now, Adrian.
I want to ask you another question before we get into that detail.
Can I pop in real quick, just real quick, because I see a lot of questions about your services. So just to clear that out, so first, do you deal with short-term rentals? And B, do you only work in Paris?
Okay, we work all over France, but we do have a team in Paris and a team in Nice, which are our two primary, areas of the country. But we've just brought on someone who we're going to be launching later this week, actually, or next week, actually, to handle the entire country. I will say, however, that it's really difficult to find not only to find, but to secure rental properties outside of the major cities because they really are not open to foreign sourced income, which means looking at most of our clients. It's just really, really tough, and people need to know that. But for the moment, we have a tremendous amount of success in Paris and Nice. And outside of that, it just gets a little bit more difficult, but we can do it. Absolutely. Yes. Okay.
Good. Thank you, Adrian.
No problem. I'm glad we addressed that. And Jay, I want to go back to why the landlords and agencies love our clients so much. Because we know they do. We know that they can put to the top of the list, right? And
Yeah.
And that's the success story. And so, I want to understand what it is you do that puts our clients at the top of the list.
Yeah, well, I would really put that first. We have great clients, right? So folks that understand what we do. They believe us and trust us. So there is one building trust with our clients, right? So it's really an honor to be able to represent our clients in the French market. So I'd say there's one, that level of trust that we develop with our clients and getting to know them. And number two is being able to translate that and being their ambassador here in France, to the agencies, to the owners. So it's really understanding, what our owners and agencies are looking for and translating what our clients bring to that into, we kind of decode that process for the agencies and owners. So exactly what that means is the difference between real estate and patrimoine, how the French view their property. So they see their life and their property in continuity. These are inherited. This is history. So it's not just a transaction. It's a handover of a piece of culture. So that's something that we work a lot with our local partners, our agencies and owners, and helping our clients understand that. The second part is, I would say, I just said the word client, but it's a bit provocative, but it's a little bit more comrade, that we are entering a community, and it's a strong civic community. And our partners understand that we understand that, right? So we position our clients and our folks in that framing that they are joining a civic community. And there's a lot of small details that come into that. And the last part of it is as I mentioned, it's culture. It's really, really about a cultural fit. And we understand how to translate our clients' profiles, our folks' profiles into cultural fit for here in the Parisian market. So our partners, our agents, they know to come to us because we have really good, qualified, vetted client list that they can't get anyplace else. So they come to us first when they have really, really nice properties.
Okay, so in other words, it's not about the money.
No, everybody can afford it. No, everybody can afford these properties.
Like everything in France, nothing's about the money. It's all about the list. Yes,
No,
right?
there's a financial narrative to it, but that's 10% of the conversation, right? Everybody can afford these apartments. There's not an issue there.
Okay, so what they want to know is who's going to be in their home. That's
Yeah.
what they want to know.
That's really what they want to know. Who's going to be there, what you're going to be doing, and are you a cultural fit for the home, the building, and the neighborhood? Because they are responsible for their neighbors. They're the ones who are going to answer the
Oh,
questions about
true.
who's in that
Right.
apartment. What did you do to us? Right?
Right. So if they've got a
So
tenant that's got bongo drums, in other words, that's just not going to work, right?
it,
Hey, it's
it
happened to
might
me.
work. It might work, but we work with you. That's why we work with you. If you're a musician and you're bringing over your studio, we're
Right.
going to work with you and find you the place where it's appropriate. What neighborhood is that best for? We're going to let you know that 21st of June is Fête de la Musique and where to plug up your guitar. But we're also going to let the owners know, and the owners will know, and they'll welcome you if you're the musician. And we'll steer you away from the apartments that don't want the musicians.
So do you have them write a motivational letter?
I do I read the motivational letters, but that's in my email to the agencies for the most
Mhm.
part, because understanding the technical aspects, how our agents work. So I'll put I'll put the motivation letter into my presentational email, because they simply forward, right? When they know they're getting an email from us, they forward it to the owner. So the owner reads the email that I've written to the agent, which demonstrates we have a professional relationship. They read the profile within the email, and then they open up the attachment that we work very hard on putting together, which is the application.
Well,
Jaya, I see a question. Maybe you can educate also the audience. Like someone is asking, can you discuss the 10-month lease? That is also an option in France, question mark.
Yeah. So the 10-month lease, Adrian, if you want to go on
the
this one,
mobility
or
lease.
yeah,
No, the
yeah, the
mobility
mobility
lease.
lease.
No, 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 you
Mhm.
can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So the mobility lease I would say is a policy response to the Airbnb crush, right? So short term rentals. So what they did was they created a mobility lease, which took away 2 months of revenue from short term rental market. So that's up to a maximum of 10 months. Anybody that wants their apartment or flat on the market, they can put it up there for a maximum of 10 months on the short term market, and then the tenants have to leave after the 10-month period. If that's the general, am I correct, Adrian?
Well, the thing is about the mobility leases, generally it's for those who are here on business or education.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently had a personal situation where it was because we were in the middle of renovation,
Mm-hmm.
right? It wasn't for business or education, but when you're in the middle of a renovation and you need to live somewhere for a few months, and I was asked by one of the rental agencies if that was the case.
Hmm.
So I'm just wondering, Jay, if that is now a new category for the legality of that kind of a lease, the bimobilité.
Yeah. So the mobility stretches all the way from what Airbnb does, from 1 month all the way to 10 months. So it can be
Right?
educational, business, short term. There's a lot of competitors on the market now using that lease quite creatively. But the essence of it is you can stay a maximum 10 months in the apartment, right? Um, and you have to move out, so you cannot
Right.
renew. There's no tacit renewal of a 10-month lease of the
And the
mobility lease.
landlord doesn't, the landlord can't take a security deposit. So the landlord is giving up that kind of security in order to have time for themselves in their own apartment, in effect.
Yeah, and you'll also see higher price points for
Yeah,
mobility
exactly.
leasing,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question which from Sandra, which I think is interesting because in a way it's touching base on one of those elephants in the room. Like we all know about, well, you may have heard about the dossier. I'm talking to the audience. Of course, you would know, but like you have to build your dossier to apply for a rental. But very often, like they think you're French, and so Sandra is asking, agencies are asking US retired expats if they pay French taxes. How do you handle that?
Yeah, Sandra, that's a very good question. So, what we do is we definitely translate American or North American documents for the French market, right? Everything to do with Social Security, with how you pay your taxes, investment portfolios, dividends, how you draw down your revenue is a big part of what we do and how we explain that to our agency partners and what that means for them, right? So, if you pass your dossier over, as is, they're going to wade through it and they'll look at it and they may have some questions. I would say that's a bit of our added value is that we translate that for them and help them understand what that means. But that will be an issue. That is definitely an issue of French sources of revenue.
But in essence, because of the French-American tax treaty, which is one of the finest in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and an American moving over, especially a retiree, isn't going to pay tax to France. They would have to submit a tax return, but they're not obligated to pay French taxes because their earnings were in the US and they're not going to pay tax on their retirement income or dividends. So that just has to be explained to the landlord and the agencies.
Actually, I think it transitioned nicely into another question I'm seeing. So Bridget is asking, we're thinking to first get a furnished rental for a few months before trying to get a longer term rental. Is that recommended? And if not, why? And if not, why not? I think she's also kind of implying in the context of applying for a visa, obviously like getting a short term lease and then switching to a longer one.
Adrian?
You want to answer? No, it's okay.
I'll fill in. Yeah.
No, basically, in order to get a visa, you only have to have 90 days of housing. So most of our clients will just literally rent an Airbnb style apartment, a short-term rental for 90 days to qualify for the visa, and then hire us to find them a long-term apartment, whether it be furnished or unfurnished. If it's furnished or unfurnished, in Paris and in Nice both, they can cancel that lease with a 30-day notice. They're not stuck to the full term of the lease no matter what. So
if I may add on to what you're saying, because there's an important distinction to be made. For those of you listening, not from the US, this is an allowance that's been, basically granting for the French government is granting the Americans. But like, for example, if you're from the UK or other countries, like you do need to have a long-term contract from the start, like an Airbnb style of contract will not be visa compliant. So it is accepted from the US by the French consulate in the US. But it's important to make the distinction that this is not a blanket authorization that
the 90 days?
Yeah, it's only for the US Americans. Yeah, if a British expat wants to use
exactly, it's for US applicants. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just important for those listening in case there's
But once they commit to a 1 year furnished or a 3-year unfurnished, which is the only leases pretty much possible at this point. They do have the ability in areas of the country with housing shortages, like Paris, like Nice, they can cancel their lease with a 30-day notice. So what's great about that is someone can come over, rent a furnished apartment for the year, look for something to buy, for example, spend that year looking for something to purchase, going through the purchase process, and then cancel their lease and move into their more permanent housing. Which, by the way, let me just add one thing to that. When we have a contract to find a property to rent, we offer a discount on the service to find a property to purchase that ends up paying for the service to find the property to rent. So it's as if we did that for free. If it's within 2 years.
Speaking of things you might do for free, do you provide a guarantee or recommend a guarantor?
Jay, I'll let you do that.
Yeah, so we do. We work. What really opens doors for us is Guarant Me, which is an online certification process. It's an online guarantor where you upload a handful of documents and they give you a pre-certification, right? So it is with that pre-certification that opens an enormous amount of doors for expats in Paris. Without it, it wouldn't be the same journey. But it's not a free service. It comes out to about the equal to 1 month's rent in the end.
You don't charge for it.
No, we don't charge for it.
No, we don't charge for it
So
at
technically,
all.
that's a free gig.
That's a free gift. I tell you,
Yeah,
that's that. Yeah,
It's a funny situation because it's basically an insurance policy that costs about 5% of the rent, approximately,
Mhm.
give or take, that you take out as a tenant to protect the landlord from you, the tenant, not paying the rent.
So
yeah.
you're insuring against yourself in a way. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, but the landlords and the agencies aren't even going to talk to Jay if you don't have this if you don't have this certificate, and they're not
Yeah.
going to certify you for more than 1/3 of your disposable income,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
I have an interesting question. Is it imperative to speak French to live in France, or could I get by with translation apps? I'll let you manage with this.
The answer is no.
No.
Lord, it took me 30 years to learn French. No, in fact, especially in certain international cities, such as Paris, such as Nice, almost everybody speaks a pretty good level of English. And it's, yes, you should learn how to speak French. You're gonna have a much better time speaking some French at least, but no, it's absolutely not required. I don't
Actually,
think that
I can bring the French
question's not on
angle.
the lease, is it?
Yeah, I can bring the French angle on because if anything, we actually love American. And the minute we hear someone speaks English, are we like, oh yeah, we want to practice our English and come talk to you. So yeah.
This is
Yeah,
true. And
I'll
they
attest
love
to.
our accent.
Yeah, I would attest to Fabien is that there's been a great change over the past 30 years. And that's part of the matching that I was talking about earlier, right? So depending on your level of French, we can recommend neighborhoods that are a little
Right.
bit more open to Anglophones and your level of French, right? So it's clear that there's stronger Anglophone communities in certain areas of Paris and other areas where you're going to be requested and asked to speak much more French. So I would just add that. But the Francophile in me says the cultural fit, learn French. We are in the host
as much as
country.
you can.
We
Yeah, as
got
much as you
to
can.
correct your French. We love doing that. So please
Yeah, but
try.
wait a minute. When you get to a certain age, okay, it's a little more difficult. Our brains don't work like babies do. Okay. It's a little
But we
harder.
still find it cute or charming. So
Yeah,
Yeah, the
they love the
accent.
accent. Hmm.
Uh-huh.
actually, the English accent is one of the accents we find the sexiest, or like I should be the charmiest. Yeah.
Yeah,
A British? A
Yeah,
British
the
accent?
English. No, well, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
we wouldn't tell the difference between American English and British English. Actually, well, I wouldn't do unless you start pronouncing words that has a T in it, because like you
Mhm.
definitely don't pronounce that like often.
No, we don't
Often, I don't
pronounce
know.
the T
Yeah, yeah.
as much as the British do. It's true.
So
Okay, other
yeah, no, it's
questions for
difficult, but
me?
we love that. Yeah, we love that accent. Yeah, it's one of the one we find the most charming. There's a question that comes back often. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing that, but I'll ask anyway. Curious about the prices of your services. If you can please touch on that.
Well, okay, it's not something we want to necessarily broadcast, but it's actually very standard. It's 1 month's rent with a minimum amount.
Okay, brilliant,
The,
nice.
the real caveat, though, is that we won't take on a rental budget that's too low because we simply can't find the apartments. I mean, at some point, if someone says, they've got a budget of 800 euros a month for an apartment in Paris, it's near to impossible to satisfy that. We just can't do the job. So we have certain minimums in terms of budget that we will work with.
And Sandra is asking a question. Why is it frowned upon when you're a retired US expat? I mean, is that the case?
No.
No,
That's
Why?
no, no,
yeah,
no,
bright
no,
angle.
no, no, no. I'm sorry. I've got to step in on this one. There's no way. No. We have a good 60-70% of the folks coming over are retirees.
Retired.
Are
Absolutely.
retired, and we're getting excellent welcomes for each and every one of them. It is not
Our
frowned.
government loves them, I can tell
It
you
is
that.
not. It is by no means frowned upon to have retirees coming over. It's No,
Where
categorically.
did you hear that?
Yeah. No.
I have a question that might be a bit of I wouldn't say a tricky one, but kind of cheeky at least. But how do you rate websites like seloger.com, Morning Croissant, all the likes? Like, do you work with them? I mean, how do you work?
Sure, I can give you a little insight on how
Not
those
too cheeky?
websites work. Yeah, no, I mean, we work with, we have to work with all of them, but I think what's important to note, and Adrian and I were exchanging on this morning about what's available. Those listings serve a variety of purposes, right? So it's not full transparency. What you see on those websites doesn't mean it's available, because the agencies pay to list, to have the ability. Seloger is a 5 billion euro company, and the agencies have to pay to do those listings. And they're allowed to keep their listings up for 30 days. The agencies will keep them up to demonstrate portfolio, to use to draw other potential tenants and owners into their portfolio. So there's a variety of things happening on those websites that aren't necessarily understandable until you get into it. I'm on it every day, so I understand. I speak with the agents. I understand how they use it. So I would say 30 to 40% of what you see is actually accessible to expats. I'm happy. We might write some articles that dive into the listings alone, but we do work with them. I have radars set up on each of them that stretch from Seloger to BNEC. Every one of them, I know all of them. But you do have to keep in mind that what you see is not necessarily what's available.
I experienced it myself because I was looking for a 2.5 month rental for my daughter. And every time I'd submit a request, I'd get a little notification saying that apartment is no longer available. And I was like, it was impossible, made me crazy.
Yeah.
I have actually very interesting question from Lynn, who's asking, will a landlord accept retirees who don't have monthly income but have enough savings to pay rent, or can you afford to prepay several months?
Yes, Lynn, that happens all the time. So what we do is we translate your savings and your portfolio investment into monthly revenue. So that's how they do accept quite a bit of our clients who are in the exact similar position or same position, that come over with enormous amounts of savings, but for different professional reasons may not have a pension. But we work with a variety of agencies and owners that can and do accept those profiles. But it's on an ad hoc basis, right? So we have to know you, we have to know your situation and how to translate it into the apartment you're looking for, neighborhood you're looking for, an agency we work with. But it happens.
And can you clarify the second hand of the question? Because as far as as I understand it, everything is very standardized, meant to protect actually the renter, the tenant. So like prepaying for like 6 months in advance is not actually possible, or is it?
Yes, it's
Not a
possible.
good idea. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah. So it really comes down to your desire to have the apartment. But I'm working in a market that everything's negotiable, right?
Okay.
And what we do, and as Adrian often says, is we're here to defend the interest of of the tenants. And we're going to let you know what's possible. So you take a fully informed decision. If you want to pay a year up front, 6 months up front, put it into escrow, we can work with all the solutions, but we just want you to be fully informed of the decisions you're taking.
Okay.
But you take a risk that if you were to cancel the lease, you might not get your money back, or it'd be difficult to get your money
exactly.
back.
You better be ready to stay for a year, because it's very difficult to get a clause into the lease that says you're going to be reimbursed for if you pay a year up front, most likely you will not get the money back.
Although there's one topic we've addressed partially, I think, because you mentioned, Adrian, I think it was that basically they can give the notice within like 1 or 3 months depending on the contract, and then they can get out. But it doesn't work the other way around. Like if the landlord wants to kick them out, like actually they're protected for a much longer period of time. Like the notice from the landlord is a lot longer, isn't it?
Yes, it can be. So we see that in a variety of leases. The landlord can have, so the first year in a civil code lease, the landlord has 3 months to tell you on the ninth month of the lease. So if you sign a 1 year lease, the landlord has to give you 3 months, and it's on the ninth month of that year. That's the only moment that the landlord can ask you to leave.
So it's
Right?
basically a 1 year, like for the first year they're protected. That's why it's a 1 year contract.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing tacitly renewed on every year. So the landlords are held to pretty strict conditions to ask their tenants to leave. Now, that's assuming that you pay your rent on time, that you're not causing a problem to your neighbors, etc. But this is on the assumption that you're a very good tenant. The landlords have very few rights, in fact, to ask you to leave on a majority of the leases that we see.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment related to something I
Yeah.
saw in the Q&A. Because while our clients are primarily North Americans, what you're talking about, Jay, applies to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
rules and regulations don't have nothing to do with what kinds of clients we have per
No,
se.
exact. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I gave that impression. Yeah, it's for
No,
everyone.
no,
This
it's
is the
probably
French
more
law.
my fault than anything else, okay?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we know what Americans go through on our side, but in terms of what we're talking about from the rental standpoint, it has nothing to do with it. These rules apply to everyone.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's actually different in the US. So just can you clarify how does that work once you're a renter in a property, and are the landlords usually open to upgrades of hardware, repainting, that kind of upgrading appliances, and also SIM, like if they want to install certain upgrades and like replace back to the original when they're moving out, basically how does that work? I mean, what are the rules around that?
I want you to do this, Jay, and then I'm going to follow up, okay?
Yeah, I know you have some experience with this.
I
So
do.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So the truth of the matter is it falls within so you take the apartment as is. We'll work with that situation first. You take the apartment with as is. And within the French law, it's called an embellissement. So you can improve the value of the property pretty much at any moment that you wish, because it's going to add value. So if you want to paint, you're free to repaint within a certain. If you paint the apartment black, you're going to have to return it to the state that the apartment was in. So you do it white. But if you want to freshen up, you can repaint. You can replace furniture. Most of it in coordination with the owner. But if you're going to add value, you're more than free. And 99% of our owners are more than happy to have, to have their apartments improved upon. Right? Now, this comes back to the état des lieux. The very first question that Adrian asked was that you will have to return the apartment to the state you received it, or else they keep your security deposit. So every value add that you undertake has to fall within the lease and that initial entry inspection, or have to be coordinated with the owner.
So I have a lot to add to this, okay? Because very often I hear, well, our hot water tank went out, okay, and the landlord isn't responsive, and so we haven't had hot water for, 3 days or whatever. And my response to that is, why suffer? Just call the plumber and have it fixed. At some point, this is your comfort in your life. And so if it costs you a little bit of money, you can then negotiate with the landlord later saying, okay, look, this is what it cost me. Will you deduct that from my rent?
From the
Right?
rent, exactly.
I mean, you have to sort of like balance what's more important.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have to keep in mind that we're working with an extremely reasonable constituency, right? So many of our owners are extremely reasonable people. They want long-term tenants. They want their property taken care of, but they're very, very reasonable people. So you ask the question, as Adrian says, go ahead, get it done, deduct it from your rent. I mean, there's solutions. We're here for that as well. That's also part of what we do. Is once you're in, we have WhatsApp groups. I answer those questions all throughout your stay, and we help you think through those, troubleshooting solutions to these situations that come up. We'll be very honest with you how to get it done quickly.
Well, in my own personal situation, I moved into a temporary apartment and it had a washer, but not a washer dryer. And there was a laundromat just downstairs. But when I did the math, it was more expensive to do my sheets and towels in the laundromat than it was to just replace the washer with a washer dryer.
Yeah.
So I did that. It was my comfort. I wanted it for the year I was there. The landlord was thrilled, of course, wonderful. And that's just what it was. It was just the cost of being in the apartment on from my perspective.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's my advice to people out there. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah. The I'm seeing an interesting question from Anthony who says, "How many times would I have to travel to France to get an apartment?" I suppose obviously if they're far away, like California or whatever, do you do like virtual visits, or like do they even have to come to France to?
No, no, they
No,
don't. We do a
no.
lot of sight unseen, both purchase and rental, sight
Yeah.
unseen. You want to elaborate on that,
Yeah, no,
Jeff?
no, for sure. I would say up to 40 to 50% of what we do is sight unseen, right? So we do a lot via video. I get to know you via video. We talk about what you want. I go out now with all of the technology that's available, as you can Google Street View many of these places. We share very honest assessments of the apartment, the building you're looking at, and we have a good portion of our clientele are signing sight unseen via video visits. If you want to do it in live on WhatsApp, you wake up early with me and I'll walk you around. If not, I'll shoot a video for you and we'll talk about it when you're awake. But it's very possible. We've had quite a few folks that arrive, and the first time they see their apartment is just off the plane with their suitcases. I had that just this week, in fact. So it's doable. We do it
And
all
then
the time.
remember that you've got a 30-day cancellation. So if you get into an apartment that you're not like 100% happy with, then you can take your time to find something better and move. I mean,
Hmm.
Yeah.
but you're not going to put them into an apartment that you
Yeah.
know is not, no, you're not going to do it.
No, no, no way that would happen. We care enormously about our folks. So we're going to put you in a place where you're thrilled to be in it. I still go back to the day I interviewed with Adrian, and I asked Adrian, I said, "Do you still love what you do?" And she says, "Of course I do, because we're making dreams come true." And
That-
there's a great feeling of handing those keys over and watching people walk into their new home. It has not happened that they leave in 30 days.
I
Don't
have
you
a
still
question.
recommend, sorry, let me just ask this one question. Don't you still recommend that someone, if they come in, that they should be in a short-term apartment just to have a good transition, to get the utilities set up, to get their bank account opened and all of that? Wouldn't you agree? Rather than just get off the plane and go straight to the long-term apartment?
Yeah, we're open to both options. It really depends on the personality. We've got some folks that once I get to know you, I say just come on over, get a short term, and let's visit together.
Right?
Because you'll feel much better within the size and space of where you're at. And others can come sight unseen. But if you have any hesitations whatsoever, come on over, get an Airbnb, and we'll get it done real quickly to save you some money in that Airbnb.
Because
But
as you
we
know,
can do it sight unseen.
sometimes it takes time to get the utilities set up. It's not always so easy.
Yeah.
And of course, they have to come in, they have to be live on the ground to meet, to go to the bank and get their bank account. And the bank account's
Yeah.
essential to get the utilities set up,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah,
So it takes,
that's
yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Uh, I have a question. I think you're gonna love this one, Adrian, because you tell me about this so often, like that doesn't exist in France. So Antonia is asking, there appears to be thousands of real estate agencies in Paris, and they're all completely separate. No centralized database of property for rent. Uh,
No MLS,
no
no
MLS in
centralized
France.
database. I mean, in
But it's
truth,
basically
that's
what you are, isn't it?
well, that's the reason we exist. I mean, the original reason not
So
is
Antonia, you see, that
because,
exists actually.
well, we exist
Well,
in order
yeah.
to do the finding on behalf of the client, right? Because it is so, I mean, you'd have to go to every agency like we do, but there's no way that an individual can have the kind of clout we have working with the agencies regularly for our clients. So it's triple difficult. I mean, it's really near to impossible. But even more important than that, Fabian, is crossing the cultural divide. And because I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And someone coming over here without understanding the language, the system, the laws, the cultural aspects of it, it would be tough. Really, really tough.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
like you
just
were
not
saying, you don't know
necessary
what you
to
don't
be
know. You can
tough.
be making mistakes without knowing you're actually making a mistake. You can be completely genuine.
Very costly. Now, when it comes to a purchase, it's even worse than a rental because with a purchase, you're dealing with sellers agents who don't care about the buyer at all, and they're not going to tell you what might deter you from purchasing that property. Let's face it. They just
Mhm.
want to sell it. They don't care what, as long as they sell their property, they don't care what they sell. So yeah, you have no protection. And we sort of think of ourselves as sort of an insurance policy in a way. Like you, we're insurance.
Honestly, I'm not getting any commissions from Adrian and her team, just so you know. But this is one of the reasons I love working with you guys, and we've been working together for years. Is because let's be honest, there's also a lot of bad actors on the market in France. Actually, if anything, there is a French specific saying for you guys, like "Tu me prends pour un Américain," like "Do you think I'm an American?" This is literally because we think the Americans are so rich so that they can afford pretty much anything. And so like we think that you're all millionaires. And so there are people out there actively targeting American clients because they
Yeah,
know in a way
that
it's
they
not that you're
money.
more gullible, but it's easier to sell you stuff that the French would not buy. And so that this is
Yeah.
why you crossing this bridge, like preventing them.
Yes, we really are. We really are protecting them.
Yeah.
It is absolutely my mission, and my staff all know that we never advise based on our pocketbook, period. It's
Yeah.
always about the interest of the client. No, 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 no. Jay knows. I say it
Mhm.
constantly. It
Yeah.
is absolutely in the interest of the client, no matter what it is we do. It's not about, how much we're earning out of it. I have clients who I've recommended a property to buy that is much less than the one they think they want to buy. And they look at me like, are you nuts? You're a real estate agent and you're suggesting I spend like hundreds of thousands of euros less. And I go, yeah, because that's the property that suits you better, you
Yeah.
know.
And
And they
I would
think
add to that. Yeah.
I never hear that.
Yeah. Now I add to it. It's also about this cultural fit, right? You're coming over. You're joining a community. You're joining our community. We welcome you into our community, and we don't need problems. We don't want problems in our community. So we want you to be. We want that fit perfect for you because you're going to join the community, and it's a large, happy group of folks, right? So spinning out and turning it for money, that's not the French way. I'd say that's where we're French, in that it's
Well,
not about the money, you know.
It, it's
Um,
it's a philosophy I've had for as long as
yeah,
I've been alive because I just believe that when you go out there and you put your best foot forward and you do your best job, that the money comes because
mhm,
you've done a good job. And that's the
yeah,
number one thing you have to do. And in our case, yeah, I mean, it's rewarding to us that we're able to make this happen for so
yeah,
many people. On
yeah,
the idea of community, I would just like to say that we run a coffee gathering once a month in Paris on the second Tuesday of the month called Après-midi. We do it in Nice every other month on the fourth Thursday of the month where we have a speaker. We usually have somewhere between 40 and 60 people who come to that, and it's a great way of meeting people. On top of that, we write 3 publications a week. In fact, Thursday's publication, which is called French Property Insider, is a follow-up to this webinar, and it's going to be all about the rentals. Jay has written it. I've added some information to it, and it'll have a link to this video on Thursday's French Property Insider. So you can go to our website at adrianleeds.com and sign up for them if you're not already subscribed. It's free. You can unsubscribe at any time. And that's all part of building what we call our community. It's just really important to us.
Mm.
Anyway, that's my pitch. Now we can get back to the questions.
That's a very good one. It's inspiring. So back to the rentals. The someone's asking just to clear that out. Is one required to use a guarantor, or can a tenant provide funds for the full lease in advance? I mean, you touched base on this, but it's just to clear that
A good
out.
question, yeah.
yeah. I would insist that we get started with a Guarantee certificate, right? Because you've been
It's
validated
an online guarantor. Yeah.
It's the online guarantor. It's free to do it. You get pre-certified, and that's the first introduction into the language that the real estate market speaks here, right? And then once we find your apartment, there's a variety of different ways that we can approach um, whether you need it or not. But I would strongly suggest you're opening with a pre-certification with Guarantee, and then ad hoc basis once you found your place.
Another clarification. Thank you, Jay. Another clarification from Laurie Lee, I suppose. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Is the 3-year unfurnished the same as a 369 lease?
What is the
What's
369?
Okay, a 369 is a business
369?
type of lease, so it's probably like a misunderstanding of this. Like I have a 369 for my business.
Okay, it's a commercial lease, which we don't deal with at all.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
long story short, it's not the same.
Right,
No.
exactly.
Okay. Well, I'll read it because I think it's Sandra is asking. It's not really a question. Well, it is a question. Retired nurse, US expat, lived in Paris for 6 weeks today. 3 applications rejected after submitting a social security pension, fidelity accounts, guarantee certification, BNP, blah blah blah. No positive result. Can you help? It's basically what
Of
what you're
course, of course.
Sandra, get
Call
in
us up.
touch. I mean, we'll share the. Oh, by the way, we'll share
That's what we do.
Adrian's details in the follow-up email that we'll probably send by tomorrow as well. So you, any questions we have not answered, you will have Adrian's details and her teams so that you can reach out directly.
Okay, that's great. Jay,
Um,
any other questions specifically?
yeah.
We've got a
Okay.
few more minutes.
Okay. Well, Wayne's asking. Can ask Fabian to point out the difference between how Brits and Americans are treated. So, well, like you were saying, this is exactly the
By the
same.
French? Treated by the French?
Oh, by the French, that might be different, but there's no difference. I mean, visa-wise, we do see differences. I won't like it is political. It depends on the political situations, but the French government has been more flexible with Americans. So in a way, it's easier for Americans to get a visa than it is for the Brits. Although they have softened the stance to the Brits, and again, it's not an anti-British expat policy. It's more of a post-Brexit EU kind of grunge, and it's not French specific. But the French government is pro, well, Anglophone expats and immigrants in general. So they are softening the rules, but everything bureaucratic in France moves slowly. So the main differences are about Airbnbs not being accepted in some countries, which it is with the Americans, it's accepted. The insurance, it's a field we're working with. Often they have a bit of a tighter requirement as well. They play by the book from the UK. Those are the 2 main differences I'm seeing, Brits versus Americans.
Okay.
It's a bit of a long answer, but
I'm getting a lot of questions about cities outside of Paris and Nice for the rentals, which is entirely doable, but generally we ask that the tenant, the client, be on the ground to look at the properties themselves, because otherwise they're going to have to pay us to travel to be there. And that's just, it just costs money to do that. But we can certainly pave the way. Now, the person I've brought on, Jennifer Perret, who's going to be managing the rest of France outside of the Île-de-France and outside of the Alpes-Maritimes areas. She will be working with partner agencies in those various cities to make this happen a little more smoothly. I am on a mission to visit France, and I am taking literally these long weekend trips to different cities to get to know the cities really well so that I can consult with our clients more intelligently. So, for example, I just spent time in Lyon. I just spent time in Strasbourg. I have a plan to go to Toulouse. I spent lots of time in Bordeaux. I mean, there are a lot of cities in France that I already know really well.
are you going to shadow Eva Longoria's show, Searching for France?
Well, I really need to know the cities, and I need to know I want to get to know the expats who are there. So I've been holding meetups so they can tell me what they like or don't like about these cities, and about their own communities and what it's like for them, and to be able to make connections. So it's really valuable. We're going to also I write about them, of course. it is my personal impression of the cities, of course, but we have a very high standard for what a city has to satisfy, and it usually has to do with, good health care. So we don't want to be in a healthcare desert. Has to be with good access and transportation, whether it has a good American community, things like that that are important for our community to be happy. Can they land there and really find and be comfortable in those places?
Hmm.
So, yes, you're going to see that we're going to be opening up this more and more. In
And
fact, you and I are going to be talking about it an interview,
yeah, we're gonna do that
June,
shortly.
in June, I
Yeah,
think, right?
exactly, in a bit less
Or
than a couple of
May
months.
or June, I think June.
Yeah,
Can't remember.
we're gonna host an interview, like basically cities versus the countryside of France. I mean, I'm
Right, to help
oversimplifying
people
this, but
decide where to live,
yeah.
because it's a big question we get.
And for Americans, because this is very American specific, in a way, not all Americans are created equal in regard to moving to France as when they move to like smaller cities or in the countryside, because like if you're moving to the countryside, you probably want to be able to drive there, and not all states have agreements with France. And so
Right. And it's at a certain age, maybe you don't want to drive. Maybe it's time to be in an urban environment where you have access to everything till the day you die? No,
that's never gonna happen. No, no, no.
uh,
You're moving to France to become
listen,
immortal, eating French cheese and beverages.
there is a lady next door to my daughter's apartment in a studio who's 103 who lives by herself. Okay. If she were in the US because of the car culture, she'd be in a nursing home. And instead, she's here. And because of French healthcare, someone comes in every day to take care of her. And she has a real life at
Yeah.
103.
You
It's
see the
amazing.
magic of French cheese. It's just because of the French cheese.
And the
Well,
wine, and the wine.
And the
and
wine,
wine,
and the wine. Jane
and
is
the
is a guy of reason
baguette,
here, the
and
voice
the
of
cafe
reason.
creme.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're down
Just
to three
because,
minutes.
yeah, yeah, we only have like 5 minutes left. Lisa is asking an interesting question about shipping belongings from the US. What is the cutoff to avoid import tax?
1 year from having your visa,
Yeah.
basically. We have a moving consultant that we work with who can help them do that. So we have resources to handle everything, just like you do. We both work with really qualified people to help our clients manage everything, whether it's tax advice, financial advice, soup, insurance, of course, mortgage brokers, everything you need. Yeah,
Thank you, Adrian. Christy is asking also a very, I mean, I'm actually surprised we didn't mention this, but what is the average timeline to find a rental apartment
that's
from
a good
search to
question.
lease signing?
That's Jay.
Yeah. I'm really about efficiencies, right? So this has been the big goal of mine from when I started, and it lies on the ecosystem of partners that we have. So if you get really lucky, it can happen in a day or two. But most of the time, we like to say 6 weeks for the search, but 70% of what we're doing is in 7 to 10 days.
Okay, that's fast.
Yeah.
That's the magician part, Jay.
But it's really thanks to our partners. If I have a single partner listening here, I really want to thank them. We have a vast network of partner agencies that understand what we're bringing to the market, that understand our clients are top level clients. And that's really thanks to them and their owners that we can do this as quickly as we're doing it now. Because without them, it wouldn't be possible, right? So it's really about tapping into an ecosystem, a network of partners that we have, because we've built that trust. But it can happen very quickly. It can happen
We
very, very
talked
quickly.
about something before we went live, and I think same. It's I just find a question I think is very relevant here from Carol, who is asking what would be the situation when renting with pets, for example, a cat in her case.
Great
Oh,
question, Carol. Go ahead, Adrian. I'll let you have
well,
at
no,
it,
no,
and
no.
I'll
Listen,
add.
they can't deny you the pets, but they might not choose you if you have pets.
Yeah.
So this is where, and I don't mean, listen, I really don't mean this to be a sales pitch, okay? It's just that again, it has to do with that cultural aspect and being able to position it clearly. So Jay told that we talked about this earlier. When he talks to the agencies and the landlords, he really needs to work with those that are open to pets. And cats are probably not much of a problem. It
Yeah.
mostly has to do with dogs, big dogs, little dogs that are yippy, those kinds of things. So maybe you want to elaborate on it, but
Yeah.
we're at time. We're at time, Fabienne. So it depends on if you want to go over.
Yeah, no, we're on time. I mean, we can pick up a few last questions. One from Peter should be able to easy to answer. Which Paris neighborhood are the hardest to find rentals due to popularity, and which are the easiest?
That's tough.
It's a bit of a how long is a piece of string kind of question, but
Yeah. To be honest, we get it done in every neighborhood, right? So it's on case by case basis. So you would think that the highest demand neighborhoods, which are the central single digit neighborhoods, are the hardest to get into. But after the network that we've built up, that's where most of my folks are landing now, right? So I wouldn't say the hardest neighborhood. I would say it's more of your expectations. We have to manage your expectations and get you into the right neighborhood. Because to generalize in that manner, I wouldn't do it, because we're landing folks in every neighborhood now on a weekly basis. So there isn't a hard or easy neighborhood. It's what matches you.
I'd like to make a comment based on what you just said, and this is just my personal philosophy. I believe in replacing the word expectations with the word hopes, because when you have expectations, you're likely to be disappointed. But when you have hopes, it's much less of a judgment. And if you satisfy that hope, then you're really happy. And it's just a philosophy of life that, I adopted about 20 years ago, and it keeps me really happy. So, do you want to, I don't know, is there any, you want to take other questions, or you want to end on that note? And
well, I see a lot of very interesting. I mean, we've answered between like Nani, Patty, and obviously ourselves, like 181 questions. So we still have 120 live, but yeah, we're going over time. So sorry for the questions we could not answer. Again,
I
feel
might try to answer them in upcoming newsletters. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
We're going to have all the questions, so we know how to address that. And I saw that one person wanted, or a few people wanted to know if this was recorded, and absolutely, it's going to be on your YouTube and mine, right?
Yeah, exactly. So all the registrants, we're going to send a follow-up email. So watch out for this email. We're going to share Adrian's details again and on the website, how to get in touch, a link to the replay. It's going to be posted on YouTube as well. And any questions we did not address, again, sorry, we could not. You had a lot of questions, so that was
We
great.
needed several more hours, Fabio.
Oh yes, that could have been a few hours the webinar, definitely.
Right.
But thank you all for joining. So many of you, that's really so great. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the emojis and all the love.
Yeah,
We're gonna be able to get back in touch over email
little
shortly.
floaties, aren't they sweet? I would like to really thank Jay. You've been fabulous. You do a great job. We love
Thanks
you
for
to
having me.
death. Mr. Magician. He's amazing. Thank you for answering all the questions. And Fabienne, thank you for inviting us. It's been great.
Well, thank you for
Merci,
coming
Fabien.
on the show. It's always great fun. Jay, that was spot on. Adrian, I like your colors.
Thank you.
And we'll see everyone real soon.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll get back in touch real soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much
A
for coming.
bientôt.
Guys, thank
Au
you.
revoir.
Bye bye.
Au
À
revoir.
bientôt.
À bientôt.